Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, and I want to talk about how Dungeons & Dragons has continued to just kind of break me and then reform me. I don't function as a normal human being anymore because of Dungeons & Dragons. There's something fundamentally different in me, and it really has completely reshaped my entire outlook on everything in the world in ways that are shocking and upsetting to other people. And so one of the things is, let's get into it. So I'm closeted in Dungeons and Dragons, right? The ways that Dungeons and Dragons has changed me, I can't expose to regular human beings, to regular muggles, right? Like, even within the Dungeons and Dragons community, it upsets people the way I think about Dungeons and Dragons. And so it goes across many, many different factors. And I just want to talk about one today because it happened yesterday. All right. So I went to PAX Unplugged, and I went to PAX Unplugged. The primary reason I went to PAX Unplugged was to get to the PAX Unplugged tabletop role-playing game library. I could sit there for 3 days and just read through it. But I see my friends, and I go to the TTRPG library, and I play board games, and I check out, the action on the D&D tables, and, it's a great convention, right? But I go there and I see Leader Games. So I have played every game Leader Games has ever made. Root, Ahoy, Fort, Oath, right? They make banger, asymmetrical banger board games, right? So they made a brand new one, and I saw it at PAX Unplugged, and it was called Arcs, right? And it's a heavy science fiction story. So I bought it I bought it at my friendly local game shop where I buy my my Dungeons and Dragons canon source books, right? And so I get there, and so I buy Arcs, and then I invite over some friends, and we all sit down, right? And the two friends actually two of the friends that are at the table are just straight board game guys, right? And one of them's a very, I invited him, he knew every single rule, right? I didn't even read the rule book. And the reason why is I want to learn the game as I play it. And people are like, well, how could you possibly win? And I'm like, I don't expect to win a board game the first 3 times I play it. I just want to see how it is actually played. And then once I learn the rules, then I will start to learn strategy, right? So I don't expect to win a game until about the 6th or 8th time I've played it, right? But this is not the case for most people. Most people can't imagine playing a board game not to win, right? But get this. So this was more profound than I'd ever seen it. And I think I've done this on many board games. So you needed 30 points to win, right? So one guy has 16 points. One guy has 18 points. And I have 2 points. And I'm like, oh, wow. And I'm like, I'm not doing great in this game from the winning perspective, but I was having a blast. I was enjoying the experience of the narrative, right? So this is about spaceship battles in clusters and arcs in space, and different alien species vying to control different areas of these space territories, right? And I was just blown away with the narrative that was unfolding. So I didn't care about the points. I wanted to see how mobilization and aggression and all these different cards and all these different species and all these ship battles, I wanted to enjoy the story that was unfolding at the table, right? So we get to there's 5 chapters, right? And so the game ends at the end of the 5th chapter, or if any one player reaches 30 points, it immediately ends, right? They win. Any player who's reached 30 points, no matter what chapter it's in, right? So at the end of chapter 3, right? Actually, it was at the end of chapter 4. One of the players says, Scott, you have to do these actions on your next turn. And I was like, why do I have to do that? And he's like, if you don't do these actions on your next turn, this player here will have 30 points. He'll have 33 points at the end of this. So you need to deny him these 6 points, right? And I knew I couldn't tell him, I don't care about those points. I have cards in my hand. I want to see them play out. I want to see how it unfolds on the board. I want to see the narrative of every alien species. I want to see the narrative of the ship battles. I want to see the narrative of, the difference between building a city and building a starport, right? I want to see the narrative in the resources, the relics, the psionics, all these powerful things. I don't care about winning, right? But I knew I could not tell him that, right? And the reason why is it's so threatening to his worldview, right? Like, he's like, well, wait a second. Every single turn, I'm playing everybody else's turn, and I'm saying they'll do this because they need to. They'll do this because they need to. They'll do this because they need to win, right? He doesn't have a box in his head for this person is not here to win. They're here to experience a narrative. And if I'm playing for a different reason than him, and other people are playing for a different reason than him, it doesn't seem rational to him. And he needs everybody to take rational turns so that he can predict what they're going to do. And if he can't predict what they're going to do, then all of his theories break down, right? And this is threatening to his worldview, right? Good friend, I respect him. It's not his fault. It's not his fault. Just like the rest of people, like Gary Gygax created a new type of human being. A human being who is not motivated by traditional rationality, is not motivated by traditional incentives. Someone who is freed from anything but the lure of narrative, right? And someone who believes that narrative is the most powerful secular source in the world. People who have seen the sunrise on 30 worlds. This has never happened before in the history of humanity. We've never had people who have identity stacked 3 identities, 30 identities, 300 identities, right? We've never had people who could mix and match intellect, emotion, wisdom, experience, memory, sensation between different identities, and their own identity just being one of them, right? These, superhumans are really different, right? But it's terrifying to the regular world, right? And so I'm a closeted Dungeons and Dragons enthusiast. I cannot allow the world to see all the ways that Dungeons and Dragons has changed me and is changing me, because it's so threatening and so different, right? And just like why are marginalized groups marginalized? Because they're different, right? And so if you truly are, if you're playing Dungeons and Dragons the way I play Dungeons and Dragons, you will be marginalized, right? And we are not even close to being I see that. Are we a privileged group? That's interesting. Can you be a marginalized group and a privileged group at the same time? Fascinating. Thank you for letting me share this with you. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. Nothing more, nothing less. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider subscribing and have a fetch millennium.